All right, friends, today we're going to learn how to make this cupcake, and this cupcake is made using this and toilet paper and a few other things too. So this is the frosting part of our cupcake. That's the part we're going to use the toilet paper for, and then the bottom part, the cake part, is going to be made using the styrofoam cup. So let me put this aside. The other things you will need you'll need a cup for some water. You'll need some masking tape, you'll need some scissors, you will need maybe a pen, and you will need some glue. Oh, and you'll also need a little bit of newspaper. Okay, so we're going to start with our styrofoam cup, and we need to cut our cup about halfway across the middle. We want to sort of cut it in half, so we want it to cut it like right about there. So if you want, you can draw a line to help guide yourself, so that you cut a pretty straight line, but if it's not perfectly straight, we can trim it at the end just to make sure that your cupcake doesn't sit crookedly. Okay, so I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to do a little snip here. I'm just doing pretty little snips here so that I don't rip the cup. These kind of cups can be a little fragile, so you have to be kind of careful with them. Okay, so now I have my two pieces. This piece is going to be the cake part. This is going to be the bottom, and then this piece, instead of throwing this away, we're going to pop it in here, and it's going to add a little bit of stability to our cupcake, okay? So if your bottom, and it's going to be hollow, and that's okay, if your bottom looks like it's a little crooked and your cupcake isn't going to sit straight, then you can just trim it off there. Okay, now this part right here, we need to add a little bit of newspaper in there, because if not, your frosting is going to sink into here, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to put some newspaper in there, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to tear some strips. I don't want them to be too big. You can kind of see how big they are. And I'm going to fold them a little bit and then crinkle them up, and I'm going to just pop them in there like this. Push them down, not too hard. I don't want to break my cup, okay? I'll fold this and sort of crinkle it up and put those in there. Okay, so that's how I can fill the cake part of my cupcake. Now, I want to have frosting for my cupcake. I need this cupcake to have a dome on it. So in order to do that, I need another piece of newspaper. And so for that, you're going to need a little bit bigger of a piece. So when you open the newspaper, you need like a half of a piece like this, okay? And there's kind of a special way to crumple it so that you can get a dome. So I'm going to sort of start in the middle, and I'm going to tuck the newspaper up in on itself. Okay, can you see how I'm sort of tucking it up in on itself? All right, and then what I'm going to be doing is putting that on top of the cup, and then that's going to make my cupcake. All right, that's going to be the frosting part of the cupcake. Now you know that's going to come flying off and open up the second I take my hands off of it. So what you need to do is tear yourself off a couple pieces of tape so that you can just pull them off your workspace and put them on there just to keep the newspaper in place, okay? So I've torn a few pieces up. I'm going to kind of have to re-fold this and pop this on top like that. And then while I'm holding it with one hand, I can take this tape that I already cut and I can tape it together. I can tape that newspaper in there. So you can see I'm starting at the top, and then I'm actually bringing it down and putting it up there on the inside too. That kind of helps that stay together, even though I don't think there'll be too much trouble. We won't have too much trouble with that. Okay, so go all the way around, and I think this piece right here. Okay, so now at least it's not going to fly apart, okay, as soon as I lift my hand up. So there's our cupcake, and you might want to shape it a little bit if you don't like the way it's shaped. I don't like that piece sticking out there, and so I'm going to just tape that down a little bit like that, okay. So I've got my frosting and I've got the cake part. All right, so now it's time for us to start rolling our frosting for our toilet paper. So, or our toilet paper to make our frosting, I guess I should say. So I'm going to pour myself a little bit of water. And I have, oh, before we do that actually, we will need to put some glue on here so that our frosting doesn't come off. So what you're going to do is you'll take your glue and kind of swirl it on there, and then take your finger and spread it all around, kind of like you're frosting this with glue for starters. Okay, you want to make sure it's covered pretty well. So if you're running out of glue, don't be afraid to add a little bit more around the edge. So I'm just going to spread that down there. And there we go. Just double check and make sure I've got glue all around the edge so it can help hold my frosting in place. We don't want any frosting falling off. Okay, I might want just a smidge more right here. I really don't want my frosting falling off. All right, my cupcake is now ready for the frosting. You can just rinse your finger off in there, no big deal. So your toilet paper might not be the same as mine. Mine is a super chintzy, cheap toilet paper that's single ply. So I need to do 3 layers of toilet paper on mine. 1, 2, and then finally a 3rd layer of toilet paper. And then what you do, let me scoop my glue out of the way, is you sprinkle it with a little bit of water. You don't want it to be completely soaked or it'll just start falling apart, but you need it to be somewhat damp. And then you are going to have a little bit of water on your workspace. You can see it's kind of shiny because it's kind of wet. Then you're going to fold your toilet paper and you're going to fold it again. So you sort of have this snake, and the ends never get wet because they're all the way on the end. So we kind of have to wet them separately. Okay. Then you're going to roll this just like you roll clay. If you were rolling a coil of clay, that's the same strategy or the same technique that you're going to use for this toilet paper cupcake. So once you have your coil done, find a spot where you want to start. I'm actually going to start right here. And the other thing you're going to want to do is, you see how I'm coiling it as I wrap it. And the funny thing about this, and I can't seem to figure out why, the funny thing about this is sometimes you'll be coiling it and it looks like you're uncoiling it. So then you have to start coiling it the other direction. You'll know what I mean when you start doing this. So you're going to coil it a little bit. When you get to where you started, then you are going to go up to the next row, just like if you were making a coil pot with clay. You're just going to layer it on top, and you want to try to make sure that there's no space. You don't want the newspaper to show. And then you just keep going until your coil is done. And then we're going to do it again. So I'm going to do 3 layers. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my finger's a little sticky. No biggie. And I'm going to dampen it. Remember, don't get it sopping wet or it might start to rip. It's not the strongest stuff. Make sure your work surface is a little bit damp. Fold it in half. Fold it again. Then you have this sort of long strip of toilet paper. And then you're going to roll it just like you would if you were making a coil with clay. You just roll it just like this, and then you'll have a coil. You do want to try to make the coils be sort of the same in width. So you don't want one part to be really thick and another part to be really thin. Then find where you stopped. This is where the last one ended. So this is where this one's going to start. I'm just going to make sure it's really well coiled there. And I'm going to twist it and lay it on the coil. Twist it and lay it right on top. Twist it, I'm just going to keep turning my cupcake and laying this on top. Keep going around. Keep going around, making sure that my coils are right on top of each other so that there's no newspaper showing. All right, so my cupcake's getting frosted there. Okay, looks like I need another row of coils. So I'm going to do another row. So I'm going to go one layer, the second layer, and the third layer. And then we're going to put some water on it. Get it damp. And dampen up my workspace so that when I roll it, it rolls in that water. Fold, fold again. Get those ends a little damper. And then roll it just like you were rolling a coil of clay. All right, and then we'll be ready to put this one on. Roll that just a little bit more. So I find where I left off right here. And I'm going to join that up and keep rolling and just keep stacking it right on top of the last one. And once you get over the edge, like once you get more closer to the top, I should say, then it's going to go a little bit faster because you're making it, the space that you're covering is going to be a little bit smaller. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to need maybe one more to finish up. Boy, this cupcake is going to have a lot of frosting, just the way I like it. In fact, when I eat a cupcake, I actually like to lick off the frosting and then maybe eat the cake. The frosting is my favorite part. So some people don't like that frosting because it's too sweet, but not me. I'm the one that always wants the corner piece of the cake too. Oops, I just dropped my toilet paper, so that went flying. All right, we'll see if I need any more toilet paper after this one. I don't know, I might. Okay, so if it gets kind of bumpy like that, you do want to straighten it out. All right, so here is hopefully the last time we'll do this. If not, then you're definitely going to want to fast forward through this because I'm sure you have figured out this technique by now. Fold it again, get the end a little damp. The ends are always the last to be wet. And roll it like a coil of clay, just like you would roll clay. Okay, let's see where we are now. So we stopped right here. So we'll pick up where we left off. And remember, you want to coil, you want to roll the toilet paper as you are rolling it onto your cupcake. Okay, you see how I twist it with my fingers even as I'm putting it on the cupcake. Okay. Oh gosh, I wonder if I'm going to need to do one more. I don't know. We'll see. I am going to put a cherry on the top of this, so we'll see. Okay, so I'm getting near to the top, and like I said, when you get to the top, it goes much quicker. And, oh, yep, I think that's enough. Okay, so now my cupcake has its frosting on it. And the last step is I want to make a little cherry to put on the top. You probably noticed that there was a cherry on the top of my cupcake. Here, let me show it to you. So there's a little cherry on the top. So that's just made out of toilet paper too. All I did was take some toilet paper and get it wet and squish it into a little ball. Okay. All right. And there is the cherry that we're going to put on the top of the cupcake. And I'll just let that dry like that. When we're finished, we'll have to glue it on. That's okay. So once you get to this point of your cupcake, you can sort of look at it and make sure it looks the way you want it to. Make sure your craftsmanship is good. You don't have any loose edges. And then you'll let it dry. Whoops! It takes a couple of days to dry. At least mine did. So if you do it one day, it's going to need a couple of days before you can paint it. Okay? All right, so that's the first part of this project. The second part of the project, we're going to put a little bit of plaster down here just to keep it really sturdy. And then the last part will be when you paint your cupcake. All right, so I will see you back for the plastering part.